Welcome to Anecdotes for Success with Matt and Paul. Storytelling is an art form, emphasizing the value and learning that is created through personal experience. Our purpose is to share these stories and experiences with the listener. Everyone has a powerful testimony. Let's use them to level up to our best life with truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective.
Big shout out to Isaac Mather for the new podcast intro. You can check Isaac's music out on all socials or directly at isaacmathermusic.com. Hey, Matt, how are you today?
I'm great.
Good. We almost didn't hit record because we were talking about some other good stuff, just about work ethic and entitlement. And I think a lot of what we see with students or workers in your case that's frustrating is they lack a lot of the things we talk about in this podcast. And so let's spend today talking about what Anecdotes for Success is, why we do it. We'll get into the pillars, but give me your mission statement per se behind Anecdotes for Success.
Yeah, no, I think that's great because, why do we do it, right? Why do we talk about this stuff other than the fact that, number one, let's talk about all the interesting people we've met, right? Just unbelievable. That's the thing that stands out to me. That was the thing that I wasn't expecting so much, Paul. The number of not only people we've met, but the relationships that have been built from meeting those people, right? That's just been just a treasure, just an absolute gift. You know what I'm saying? Just a gift.
Absolutely.
And so that's been something that I didn't expect. I thought we'd meet people, but I didn't know about the relationships, what to expect there. So that's been there. But ultimately, I think why I do it. Outside of that, and outside of, frankly, my enjoyment of spending time with you and having the conversations you and I have, which is what drove this anyway, right? We were already having these conversations. Is there is a need out there for people to, I think, be inspired by other people's stories, and really, from me, I thought people needed to hear the stories, Paul, not just so they could be inspired, so that they could see the process that it took and how common it is. These processes, it's the same types of things over and over again. Because what I hear all the time, and I'm working with a student right now at a college who they think the answer is this shortcut somewhere. There's a trick. There's a secret, right? That this is how you're going to do it. And what I wanted to deliver to people is a consistency in the messaging, that it's basically the same thing. There are no secrets. It's work ethic, it's planning, it's, A, B, C, D, E, F, G in order to get to where you want to go, whether it's building a business, whether it's building relationships. But because what I had done, Paul, years ago, when I was sitting in a position, I'm going, what am I going to do here? What am I going to do with my life? This isn't what I had planned and what I thought. When I started reading these books, I realized quickly that there were no secrets. There was just processes, and everyone was virtually following the same type of thing. And I thought, all I have to do is the same thing, is follow these processes, and I'll get the same result, or a result that I've earned by doing whatever degree of this that I decide to do. And know what I've learned 20 years later, Paul? That I was right. That's what it was. It wasn't a trick. It was. And so my inspiration has been to help, not us necessarily deliver the message, although we do in some way, but other people deliver the same message, and our listeners go, oh, that's how I do it. Not, oh, on TikTok, this is how this guy's gonna tell me how to buy things different and cheaper and better and sell them, I'm going to get a return on an investment that no one else is getting, because I know the trick now. I know the secret now. Here, let me follow. If I only pay X amount a month, I'll learn the secrets and tricks, the insider stuff. There is no insider stuff. It's all right out there in the open for everyone. That's why I do
You nailed it all on the head. The relationships, tenet to what you do, a testament to what I preach in school. That's why we started it, right? We thought it started out of phone conversations, and then it's grown, and with our viewership, it's attracted more guests that people we never thought we'd get, and it's inspiring. And I'll take it to a little. I'll give my 2 cents that it's upped my game tenfold just in the 4 years we're doing it, because I always have a fear as a teacher that I'm preaching but not practicing.
Yeah, which I think is great that you hear that. I love that, by the way.
I don't.
Keep going, but I love
No,
it.
no, I don't. When I took the New Visions job and I'm teaching innovation, leadership, and business, it bothered me I didn't have a business. And it's not expected out of an educator, but it's like innovation and leadership, that's great with coaching and creativity. And then that's when the financial business started over COVID.
Yeah.
Uh, and then that opened other floodgates. And this podcast holds me accountable in so many ways, because while we're recording, if one person sees what we've put out here and comes back to me with it, I can't say, "Oh, I never said that." I'm not a politician. I have to own up to it, you know. And so it's helped me in so many ways. I mean, recent purchases and other endeavors, and the ironic thing is, the anecdotes for success, there is no secret. It's basically consistent effort with your process. That's all it is. And I have less empathy and sympathy for people that don't follow that and then have excuses. There, I mean, I get environment, I get family, I get bad luck, I get sickness, but you also have people that overcome those things. So I always tell athletes and students that being positive doesn't mean you're going to succeed. It just means you'll never stop trying to succeed. So if you have bad luck or an illness or something happen in your family, all right, it might derail it, but you can get back on the tracks. It just might be 5 years later or 10 years later. But I was just texting you last week how sometimes I'm out and I have conversations with people that I just keep my mouth shut because it's not worth it anymore. And it just gets boring. I'd rather I'd rather someone challenge my coaching decision or what I'm trying to do, or ask why I'm doing it and how do you do it, instead of just say, why do you want to do all that? And this podcast, I mean, I don't know why when you're 50 or 55 or 60, you're not supposed to do anything anymore. In ancient tribes, that was the chief, the decision maker.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
now I'm supposed to go play golf or go to the beach all day long and watch shows, and I don't understand it. So I get the question why I want to do stuff more often than, oh, that's amazing. How did you do it? And I don't understand that, but this podcast keeps me with a good circle, even if it's people we interview that we'll never talk to again or see again. I mean, I take Carol Sanford. I think about that
Mm,
second episode with her forever,
mm,
and we'll never see her again. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But
yeah,
she's our circle.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if anybody new to this or that has been listening, some that we've talked to in real life or future uh, subscribers and listeners, you'll I think you get addicted to the circle of people you hang out with, even if it's virtual.
Yeah, the right people, the right conversations, and you were just saying that about why at 50 am I supposed to stop doing things, and it reminded me of a book I'm reading. It's called Wild at Heart. I don't know if you've read it. I just got into it. It's on Audible, and I think it's about an 8-hour book, and I'm maybe 45 minutes into it. And what it's talking about right now, though, is the sense of adventure that we as human beings need right, not desire, but need. It's built into us, it's built in our DNA. And where this book is starting to go and why it resonates with me so much is the number of people who modern day have no adventure. No, in what you're talking about, Paul, in your scenario, this is how I perceive it anyway, is someone who could retire soon, could retire with your pension, could kind of ride off in the sunset, right? You've done it. You've put in your X amount of years, and so many people would say, well, you've done it. You have nothing else to do. You know that's not true, because that will not meet the sense of adventure built inside you. And you talk about never having a business before, Paul. Now you have what, 4 businesses, approximately.
Yeah.
I count this as a business. There's no doubt
Yep.
about it. You've got your financial business. We've got the food truck business, and you've got your real estate business now.
Yeah.
So you went from a guy who didn't feel comfortable teaching on subjects about business because you never really had one, to now a guy who owns more businesses than 99.9% of people in the world do, and probably, and I'm sure, ever will. And not only, but you also feel like, I get the sense that there's more to be done, and there's more for you to do, and it's not just here, now I've done that, now, because you're on an adventure. And it's one of the things that gets me going in these conversations, and in the ones I have all day every day, is where's people's sense of adventure. And then so many wonder why they feel so unfulfilled, and they turn to all these other things, vices, uh, 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 a variety of things they turn to try to fill that gap. And I think that's what's going on in the vast majority of people's life. And adventure doesn't have to be building a business. Maybe you want to go maybe you want to get into hiking, or maybe you want to travel, or maybe you want to get involved with your church or the community. There's a million ways to do it, but most people are lacking adventure, the purpose, the meaning. In the book, within the first 10 minutes, they were talking about meaning and purpose.
Before we get into the pillars, I think I now have a mission statement for all people that leave their career, aka retire. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
So when I leave the classroom, I'm going to start telling people, when they say why, I'm going to say, well, I'm using my experience and knowledge as a future platform for adventure learning and growth. Like that's the whole point, right? And
I think
maybe it
so.
is. Maybe you start a charitable foundation. Maybe you start a hiking club. It doesn't have to be something that's necessarily just a business or passive,
No.
but it has to have meaning and purpose. And so I know with this podcast, we talk about truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective, but the truth and the meaning, if I had to rank them, I almost like those two, but then I get stuck, because without perspective,
No.
those first two don't matter. And then if you don't understand trade-offs,
How do you make good decisions?
there's no sense ranking them, but
I do it all the time. I don't know if you ever noticed, Paul, but when I would talk about those in your classroom, I would always say, truth, this is my favorite one. And then I would go, okay, meaning, this is actually my favorite one. And then I would go, I do that for every single one of them, because I had the same problem.
well, back to that funny story. When you were in the classroom more, and it's not for lack of not wanting to be in the classroom, you teach, and your business has grown exponentially. And I still have kids visit with you. It's working.
Yeah,
It's working. But you were saying those pillars, and I thought we should write a book about it, or we should speak about
yeah.
it. And then we had phone calls, and let's try a podcast about it. And although we don't hammer away at the 4 pillars all the time, you could have a Anecdotes for Success paper with you with the 4 pillars, and you could take notes on every episode of when a guest or when one of us talks about those. It's a way of life. If I was to ever get a tattoo without sounding cultish, I'd probably get 2 of them right here, 2 of them on the other side. No, but they're important. I think about them all the time.
Paul,
And sometimes I use purpose instead of me. I mean, the point is, I'm
Yeah.
thinking about them and interpreting them in my way and doing my thing. They're just
I do
brilliant.
I do all day, every day, and I do it. It's become a value system in a way for me. And I had a call with a guy who owns some very successful businesses up in Edmonton. He and I were on FaceTime for like an hour yesterday. We met through that Connect app.
What a loser! You're FaceTiming people. That's geez.
And this guy's he's probably in his early 30s, mid 30s maybe, and he's running these not only he's running these businesses, he's building these businesses, he owns these businesses, he's buying the real estate with these businesses. And we're just having this conversation, learning about each other's businesses, how we might be able to help each other, just building a relationship. And Paul, all throughout that hour, what do you think came up? Truth, meaning, trade-offs, perspectives, just organically, because they're involved in anything that matters as far as I can tell. And I wasn't pointing them out to him. I didn't
Right.
even get into this stuff, but I'm just checking off those boxes as we go. And it's not right. They're not buzzwords.
No, they're not buzzwords. And if I get frustrated, I'm up too late at night working on something or overwhelmed, or I told you some hiccups with a recent
Yep.
purchase, and it's easy to want to say, "Oh my gosh, why am I doing this?" And that pops into my mind because you have thoughts in your mind all the time. But then
Yep.
if you actively speak to yourself and say, because there's purpose behind this, because that's the trade-off of buying something, there's going to be issues. I mean, the
Yeah.
perspective. If I went back and told my 25-year-old self or 35-year-old self or 18-year-old self, this is what I'm doing, they wouldn't even believe it. So your problem's just a first world problem. Like
Yeah.
it's a problem of being active. And I wouldn't want the alternative of never having any problems.
No, no, we're not built for it. We're not
We're
built for it.
not.
We're
That's
not
how we
built for
survived, right? Whether it's
it.
a woolly
Exactly.
mammoth chasing you or a
Yeah.
tiger.
I mean,
I don't want that either, but
right, but we're right. We're built for these things. We're biologically, it's in our DNA. It's who we are, and so I think that gives a lot of perspective as well. Because, like you said, I wouldn't want the alternative. I don't want the other issues with no problems. And look, Paul, I know people like this, and so do you, and they don't have a purpose, and those are empty people. Those are empty, and I mean that. They're sad. It's sad. I don't mean it. I'm not picking on them. I'm not. I'm not crapping on them. I'm saying it's sad. I know those people. I can name a few of them. In my mind, I won't. But you don't want that in life. You look. You're gonna go through hard stuff one way or the other. Do you want to do it on your terms or someone else's terms? And do you want a meaning and a purpose behind it, or do you want what comes with not having that? Because that's ugly.
yeah. And why do you think people hate on social media? It's because we're wired to have struggle. So if you
Yeah,
don't have any struggle, you just create your own struggle.
you're gonna find it. Hey, do you ever read 1984 by George Orwell or
Well,
Animal
I
Farm?
listened to it this summer.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
The reason I bring that up, I think it was Orwell who said it. I could be wrong. Orwell was a socialist, all right, which is odd if you read his books because it's such criticism of that,
Right.
and but he was also an intelligent person, and I think it was Orwell. It may have been someone else. It doesn't really matter. What matters is this. I'm just reiterating the point you just made. The criticism that I think it was Orwell who made was this: even if we get to this utopia, even if we get to this beautiful state where everything is perfect, right? Whatever that means. Um, and my wife's dancing my baby daughter in front of me, speaking of perfect and speaking of meaning and purpose. I mean,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and I'm
Absolutely.
talking about both my baby and my wife. Um, um, even if we get there, we as human beings will tear it down and destroy it because we are built for conflict. We're built, and it was reading that and hearing that. Well, I forget where I've heard that years ago. I was like, that is that's so true. So there is no utopia because even if we find it, there's going to be a portion of us who go, I need the conflict. I need the adventure. I need and I just thought that was interesting coming from someone who is looking for that, but also acknowledging even if you find that, there's going to be people go, nope, that's not. It's not suitable for us as human beings. So what? Why does this matter to us and our listeners and the people we talk and work with? You're going to have conflict. You're going to have problems. You're going to have issues. It, it's impossible not to. So embrace them in ways that help keep you moving forward to the goals you're trying to accomplish. And this is coming from a guy who gets super frustrated at times. So I got to practice what I preach better, and this is one of the reasons I love our conversations, Paul, because it helps me realize that, God, man, get out of your own head in some
Right.
way, and I need your perspective and your input and your conversation with me to help me realize that.
It's so true. And I use it all the time. At practice or at school, I'm like, what would I be saying on the podcast right now? Because if I'm acting a certain way and I'll preach on the podcast, you should do this, and then I'll be a hypocrite. And I don't know if there's a special word for that, but I have a huge fear in life of not practicing what I preach. Not saying I'm perfect, but
Right.
I correct it. I guess I have awareness when I'm doing it, and I was just telling my team the message yesterday. We have a big game today. It's early in the season, but one of those measuring stick games. And I'll say,
Okay.
no matter what happens tonight, the fun and the happiness is in this journey.
Yeah.
So don't be mad or don't be sad if we lose. Don't be super happy if we win. Let's just enjoy every single moment, because at the end of the year, you should have more of those. You should have unlimited amount of moments, regardless of what the record is. And over time, you'll have a good record. Like, all that stuff takes care of itself. But
Yeah.
it's called a
Well,
game. Life's called life. A journey's called a journey. And everybody just can't wait to get to the end. I don't get it.
Right. Let me ask you this on that topic, because I struggle with this. I don't know the answer. I'm not even sure I have an opinion. I'm so lost in this area. How do you reconcile the desire to live in the moment with that joy through in that journey, which is so important, right? And that's where there's so much. I, I don't like the word happiness, but there's happiness in it and joy in that, right? There's so much there. It's like the moment with my daughter right here. It's like I could
Right.
live in that moment, have her looking at me right over here, laughing because we goof off, and she's 4 months old and she's happy. And if I could bottle that and hold that for eternity, I would. It would be everything, right? I would die into that. I would just live into that and into eternity, and off I'd go. It's your team. It's living in the moment. It's the joy. It's the fun behind it. While at the same time knowing I have to plan for the future. I have to plan for her future. I have to do the work it requires today to make sure that she can be fed and clothed, and that I can do the things necessary so that we can have these joyful moments, so that your team can run those laps and put in those extra hours at batting practice, and you can model for them or coach them in ways that sometimes are hard on them and hard on you, so that you can have these joyful moments. You know what I mean? It's the trade-offs, right? It's the yin and the
Right.
yang. How do you reconcile that? Because I have a difficult time with it.
It's funny. We were just talking about it the other day, and then my daughter and I just did an episode that I think will help address this on the issue of the concept of fun in general, because everybody wants to have fun, right?
Right.
And some things aren't fun, like planning for futures and doing taxes and having difficult discussions with employees. But I think the more you can make fun out of anything you're doing, then the easier it is to get through all that stuff, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying you can make fun out of taxes. I don't know how to I don't know how to do it. But I don't know, maybe you try to do it in under a half hour instead of 45 minutes. Like, maybe that's the fun, a time challenge. And so many people are searching for fun when in actuality, if you make your own fun, you're gonna get through times far much easier. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I mean, it's a real problem for me, that's part of the answer. I think is because I want these moments, I want this joy, I want all the benefits that come with it, but trying to do that in a way that I know in order to get those trade-offs, in order to get those benefits, I have to put in investment in other areas that aren't as fun and aren't as, and it's hard for me to reconcile those things. I just I don't know how to do those things. Um, I know what I look. We'd all live in the joyous moments if we can, but you can't get there without the work.
Right.
You look. You guys, your team's successful. It's been successful. It's a successful program. You continue to lead it to success, but it takes work to do it. Right? It takes sacrifice to do it. You can't enjoy all that, all the pleasures and all the benefits of it without putting the work in. And so how do it's difficult to reconcile, oh, this is going to hurt today, but tomorrow it's going to be worth the effort. And
Yeah.
that's again, I don't have an answer. I just
Well,
presenting
well,
like a problem.
it goes back to combining things. Like instead of just doing running, we do a ton of situations where half the team's base running for 30 minutes. So
Mm,
it seems a little more fun than just running a mile, right?
yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
we're doing infield fundamentals, and the last drill might be trying to flip the ball behind your back, and a player's going to say, "Well, when will I ever use that?" I'm like, "Well, I hope never." Like that's but but let's see if we can do it 5 times in a row before we finish the drill. And then in actuality, you're working on hand-eye coordination, footwork, things like that. So you try to do the hard things extra competitively because human beings are kind of wired for competition too, aren't they? If you can bring
It
it
came
out of
up
them,
in
if
this
you can,
book.
yeah,
It came up in this book. Competition's part of the adventure. We don't want guarantees.
yeah.
We right. You're right.
So I don't know, but listen, as we wrap this up, uh, I think we did a okay job of explaining why we do it. I love the fact you talk about the interesting people we meet, the conversations we have. It inspires us and people that listen, right? And even though there's no one way to do it, there's really one system to do it. And that's being
Yes.
consistent with effort and a process. There's no
But
shortcuts.
there's no shortcuts, but there are some consistent ways to do it, to your point. Like I believe firmly I can get you to that goal that you state you want to get to, but you're going to have to follow these steps to do it. And
Right.
I can't make that any, I can't shortcut that for you. I, you have to put in the work. You want to be a great pitcher, softball pitcher, you better put in the work. I can't shortcut it for you. And that's what I believe. Now, it's not what I believe, Paul. It's what I know. It's what I
Right.
know. You know, I'm you know, look, there's only so many there's no shortcuts. Like the shortcuts to the lottery winner, let's say, right?
Right.
Well, guess what? Know what happens to most lottery winners? They're broke in 5 years because they don't have the tools to handle what it took, right, to win. Or
Absolutely.
to deal with the winning, I should say. So it's not as simple like, oh well, if I win the lottery, then I'm all set. You know what? I bet you're not. I bet you're not. I bet you'll have a good few years that you'll enjoy, but you're not set. And that's what I mean by that. There's just no
Right.
shortcut.
And you're not all set without truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective. So we're going to keep plugging away at that stuff. And I know a lot of our listeners think about truth, meaning, trade-offs, and perspective a lot. And I can't wait till not just our next episode, but another decade or 20 years or whatever comes out of this, right? When we're actually in the studio together. But we might be too busy for that. Maybe that's not even something that happens.
I was gonna say, Paul, let's call it like it is. The reason we're not in the studio together is because
It's true.
you're going off to do stuff next. I'm going off to. I have a meeting with a bunch of real estate partners. Like we're working. We're doing stuff. We're living
Yeah.
our adventures, right?
Until they can move us places, right? With holograms and stuff. I guess we're gonna settle for the Zoom.
Yeah, yeah. Which might not be too far from that.
All right. Hey, go get things done and I'll talk to you next week. Well, I'll talk to you
All right,
before then, but I'll talk to you here next week.
all right. Good luck today.
Yeah, see you, Matt. Bye.
All right, bye.